What's up, everybody? I'm Damon, one of IGN's big Godzilla fans. I'm joined on a Skype call today by Roth, one of our entertainment editors down in LA. Roth, how are you?
I'm great. Also a big Godzilla fan. Very excited for this movie.
I'm very excited. Viewers, Roth was recently lucky enough to visit the Godzilla set in Vancouver. That's correct?
Yes, in Vancouver. It was a few months ago. Usually they send you to the set and then they have you hold all of the information for a couple of months, which is hard to do.
I bet. So, Roth, after the second trailer, I've got a really good feeling about this Godzilla remake, reboot thing. Do you also have a good feeling, and did you come away feeling good after your set visit?
I came away feeling great after the set visit. You know, we went there. It was director Gareth Edwards that we spoke with. We also spoke with Aaron Johnson, who stars in the film, and Bryan Cranston on the set, as well as a bunch of the sort of visual artists, the production designers, the producers, things like that. It was very clear that they were taking the exact right approach to this movie.
All right, so one of the sets you got to visit is that giant kaiju skeleton that we saw a brief glimpse of in the second trailer, right?
Yes, that was awesome. Made of styrofoam, by the way. Yeah, you know, and that obviously raised a lot of questions for us. Okay, so if there's this massive kaiju skeleton, then obviously the kaiju have been around for a long time. Are you referencing 1954? Well, now you've seen in the second trailer that they do. But this is not a sequel. It's an origin story, which means that they are going to make reference to the events of 1954, but it's not exactly going to necessarily follow what happened in the first Godzilla film. My suspicion is that it will follow very closely because they hold that film very sacred, but there may be a little bit of twisting and turning here and there. So
they're acknowledging that in 1954, someone at least became aware of Godzilla. But he didn't destroy Tokyo then, right? In this timeline?
Well, it doesn't appear that he did. Otherwise, the world would be aware of him, right?
Mm-hmm,
you know? So you see that shot where they're trying to destroy him, and they're calling it nuclear tests in the trailer. So they were a little cagey about some of these things, but we were in the war room that basically has all of the concept art and lays out the movie. And what it looks like is that, yes, Godzilla happened in 1954. Somebody was aware of it, but that it was covered up, right? And then years later, there's Bryan Cranston comes in, and he was a nuclear physicist. He's at this power plant. He starts to suspect that something is happening. They're lying about what it is, right? It's a steady pulse, and he knows that it's biological, that it's not what they're saying it is, a leak. A big disaster happens, and I think that you can see some of that also in the trailer at the plant. He basically becomes something that's akin to a conspiracy theorist, right? He is estranged from his son, who is Aaron Johnson, and then in 2014, all of these years later, monsters start to rise up, and that brings the family back together.
The monsters they're calling Mutos, right?
They're calling them Mutos. So it's interesting because Godzilla and the Mutos are two different things. Now, the Mutos, if you've seen the toys, you've seen kind of a glimpse of what they look like, right?
Right. So
there's also, I mean, this is out there. Now, we got to say that obviously a lot of what we're talking about could be spoiler filled, right?
Sure.
This is out there. He's also shown footage of them now, right? And so they look like, you've seen a foot of them. You've seen the foot in the airport scene. They also have wings.
Right.
So that explains that scene in the trailer where there's a winged creature in the clouds.
Right.
Now, here's what I took. They did not confirm this, but here's what I took away about the Mutos. Mutos is a military acronym. I don't know what it stands for, but I know that it's a military acronym. I know that the idea of the film is that man started mucking around in nature again, and it made it even worse. I know that the Mutos base is where the plant used to be, so they have they have all these radiation signs to keep people away. But they're lying. It's not a radiation site. What it is, I think, this is my extrapolation, I'm not confirming this, is that basically they started to try and genetically engineer Godzilla-like creatures, kaiju.
Right.
And so they started mucking around in nuclear energy to genetically engineer them, and it got out of hand. And now they're loose and destroying the world, and who's going to fight them?
See, that presents an interesting possibility. Godzilla is a force of nature. We need Godzilla to destroy mankind's experiments, meaning that we need Mother Nature to sort of like bring our reckless experimenting back into balance.
Absolutely, and that is a real key that everyone on the set was driving home. That this is, well, there were three things they were driving home. One, they worked super closely with Toho, and you can see that in Godzilla's design, right?
Right.
Two, this is a character-driven story, so the human element is equally important. It's about this family that was torn apart by this event and then comes back together by the subsequent event. And then three is that it's about man's arrogance, man's hubris to think that we can control nature when we can't. And like you said, Godzilla is absolutely a force of nature. We are ants to him. Mm-hmm. It's like when he's walking through a city and killing and destroying things, it's not because he doesn't like you. He doesn't notice you.
Now, you spoke with Bryan Cranston, right?
Oh, yeah, he was awesome.
How is he feeling about the movie? Because I understand both he and Aaron Paul wanted to do something lighter after Breaking Bad, but it's seeming like Bryan Cranston made the stronger choice as compared to Need for Speed.
I'll refrain from saying what I think about. Yeah, you know what? I won't refrain. Absolutely, he did. He made the better choice, 100,000%. And he said that initially he was really reticent about it. He was nervous. Sort of. I think a lot of people think about Roland Emmerich's film and they think, "Oh, please leave Godzilla alone." But that's not what this is. He had a conversation with Gareth. He made a few tweaks to the script, and then he was sold on it. And now he is entirely sold on it. I think we all should be.
Well, you're saying for longtime Godzilla fans, there will be a few Easter eggs hidden in the movie, correct?
Yeah. There's going to be, there's one interesting thing, too, is that they may or may not ever say the word Godzilla.
That's really interesting, yeah.
Yeah, Gareth Edwards was pretty hesitant about when or how they were going to say it, and he sort of looked to Man of Steel as an inspiration for how they dealt with the word Superman. So it may be a big moment, but he wants everything to feel as realistic as possible. When they did R&D on the monsters, they looked at the way real bears fight. They were really trying to give you the sense that this is really happening. So for somebody to, in a kitschy way, scream out Godzilla, I don't think would work for this movie.
Yeah.
So they may say it, they'll find a way to say it, but they may never say it at all. And yes, there are Easter eggs.
That sounds very cool. I'm super excited for the film. As a longtime Godzilla fan, it's so cool to see just everybody, the general movie-going audience just excited about Godzilla, about a new Godzilla movie. That's something I'm not familiar with.
Yeah, and I think that this really is going to kind of bring Godzilla back in a big way. We did, of course, ask, okay, are you thinking about sequels and things like that? They said really their focus, as it should be, was to make the best movie that they can right now, but that there is room left for more story, potentially. So we'll see what happens with that. But if you're a big Godzilla fan, when we were there was a tiny little statue just on the desk in the house that said, like a paperweight that said Mothra. You can keep your eye out for that. Nice. It'll be very subtle Easter eggs and nods. It won't be anything overt or cheesy.
Sure. Godzilla is out May, what's that date again?
May 16th, 2014. I think it's 16 years and 4 days after the Roland Emmerich film, and it's wiping the slate clean.
Yeah. I'm super excited. Thank you so much for joining me today, Roth.
Thank you.
And viewers, for everything on the new Godzilla movie, stay tuned, IGN.